Okay, get ready, because we are about to dive deep into something that might just break your brain. We've been analyzing the work of Mario Arndt, and it's less like reading a history book and more like running a diagnostic on the source code of reality itself. And I gotta warn you, what we found doesn't just question history, it suggests the whole thing was written like a program. So let's just start with this one single question that changes everything. What if our past isn't some chaotic, messy series of events? What if history has a source code, an actual algorithm running in the background executing a very specific set of instructions? The next logical question is, can we find the programmer's signature? Is there a unique marker, like a fingerprint, left behind in the data? Well, according to this research, these are the digital signatures. We're talking about key numbers like 37, 73, 13, and 31 that are found and coded all through the Bible. Now, these aren't just random digits. Think of them more like checksums. They're numerical constants that the, let's call them architects, used to make sure their historical program was running exactly as intended. So how in the world do you find these hidden numbers? Well, the decryption key is a protocol called gematria. And no, this isn't some kind of mysticism. For our purposes, it's a system. It's a way to convert text into numbers, allowing us to see the hidden mathematical language buried deep inside the historical source code. So can we actually see this code running? Oh, absolutely. Just look at the early Roman Empire. It seems to be running on a loop that is, honestly, it's terrifyingly precise. We see 3 back-to-back blocks of time. Each one is exactly 27 years long. And guess how each loop terminates? Assassination. Caligula, Nero, Domitian, every 27 years, like clockwork, the program runs a self-correction script with absolute bloody precision. But the anomalies aren't just in the numbers. It gets so much bigger. We're not just talking about loops and variables anymore. We're talking about entire historical narratives, huge blocks of code just being copied and pasted from one era to the next. The function they seem to be using for this is called typology. Now, in programming terms, you'd call this a template. You take a script that already exists, in this case, a story from the Old Testament, and you just run it again. You plug in new characters, a new setting, and you generate what looks like a totally new, unique historical event. But it's not. It's a remake. Here's a perfect example of what looks like a copy-paste job. On the left, you've got the original script, the prophet Samuel anointing Saul as the first king. On the right, centuries later, the Pope anoints Pippin, the first Carolingian king. The actions, the symbolism, the political outcome, it's the exact same narrative structure, just executed with different variables. And the pattern just keeps scaling up. The Old Testament provides the template for the ultimate warrior king, David, the guy who unites a scattered kingdom. And the medieval remake? Charlemagne, the legendary conqueror who forges a massive empire. It's almost like these famous historical figures aren't even real people, but are more like avatars, artificial constructs designed to play out these pre-written roles. So when you put all of this data together, the implication is, it's just mind-blowing. It suggests that a huge chunk of early European history is basically a fork of the Old Testament source code, a complete and total rewrite designed and deployed for one specific purpose: to give the new Frankish Empire an untouchable, divinely approved legitimacy. Okay, let's put it all together now. We've got timeline glitches, we have repeating numerical signatures, we have entire narratives being copied and pasted. So what happens when we finally stop looking at the output and start looking at the source code itself? This quote from Arndt's work really is the core finding of this whole investigation. What we call history might not be a record of what actually happened at all, but a story designed on paper to look like it happened, a composed narrative. And look, this isn't just presented as some wild idea. It's laid out as a repeatable method, a history hacking toolkit, if you will. It means anyone, including you, can follow the steps, analyze the structure, hunt for the anomalies, recognize the algorithms, and use the decryption keys. It's basically a step-by-step guide to reverse engineering our official history. When you really run the numbers and look at the patterns, the conclusion feels inescapable. The patterns are just too precise. The math is way too perfect to be random chance. This history, it wasn't lived. It was composed.